You're listening to Life Check Yourself with life coach, transformational leader, and dating and relationship badass, Marni Batista. Every week, you'll get the raw truth from top experts and real people on the important life and love issues you want to know about. So, if you're ready to life check yourself in your relationships, your career, and the areas of your life that matter most to you, and you're not afraid to be called out on your, stuff, then you're ready for what's next.
Life Check Yourself with Nancy Sokol Green. How you can complete your lower brain development and retrain your nervous system. Well, welcome, ladies. I was just talking to Nancy, my guest, before we even hit record. And she was saying, you can change your relationship success by understanding the biology of your reactions and your patterns. And that's exactly why she's here, and you're going to love it. So Nancy Sokol Green is an educator. She's the author of the book called The Connection Mode: How to Change Your Brain for an Easier Life. And she is the creator of the Brain Highways Global Program, which has been helping people literally all over the world change the biology of their brain. She's been a consultant in school districts throughout California, New York, and Texas. She has been a keynote speaker at the San Diego chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics conference, and she's been a TEDx presenter. So I am super excited that you are here. So I was watching your little video, and I just think it's so brilliant and probably really basic to you, but I think the whole just setting up this piece around, like, you think your house has cracks on the roof, but like your problem isn't the roof, it's your foundation. Can you just sort of like elaborate on that and how it shows up in our relationships?
Well, sometimes I think we're looking for answers. We're asking, I don't want to say the wrong question, but not the questions they're going to get us there. So I give that analogy that you have this crooked roof, and it is. Nobody's arguing with it that it's crooked, but you spend all this time trying to fix the roof when all of a sudden one day someone goes, "Hey, Marni, did you ever look down at the foundation?" You go, "What?" And you look down and there's like these cracks and even some big gaps. And so all of a sudden you shift gears and you go, "Well, wait a minute. What if I fix the foundation? I wonder what will happen." And guess what does happen? The walls go up where they're supposed to. The roof is the way it is. And literally, it's a whole different mindset from thinking I have to fix everything that's wrong to going, let's go back to the foundation. And in this case, it's how is our brain and how is our nervous system currently wired? That being the key word. It can change. So, and so to me, that's, not just to find out that, you got a crooked roof because, your foundation is cracks. Too bad you're toast. Too bad you weren't there when they were passing out the good foundations.
Right.
No, let's just move in that direction, and it really can bring about amazing changes.
So one of the things you talk about is, and I never really heard it stated this way, so I'd love for you to elaborate, is that your lower brain development is incomplete, which would mean that you as a human now, whatever age you are, could complete it. So can you just kind of make everyone aware of like how the lower brain is impacting our ability to show up as, our best self in relationships, and just take us down that path?
This is the big piece that's missing for so many people. And the way it's supposed to go is we're all babies, supposed to get on the floor early first year of life. And we just think we're just, I think most people think, well, finally when you get up and walk, that's great. It turns out everything before that is what makes that foundation. And what we're supposed to be doing at that time, not only building the solid foundation of the lower brain, so the higher centers have something solid to build on, but it also gives us automatic functions that we need for everything in our life. And the problem is we can get upright without getting that work done. And we can get into later why maybe that's not happening so much today. But there's not like a buzzer that goes off like buzz, Marni, you shouldn't get up this. You're 9 months. You didn't do enough of your lower brain work. You get up, you look like everybody else. That's what makes this really hard. If I walk in the room right now and I have a big gash here and I'm a cover over my eye and my head's bandaged, you're going to go, "Oh, I'm going to give you a little more compassion."
Right.
I look like everybody else. but I'm missing all these automatic functions. So how might that show up? There's so many, but I'll just give you some for relationships that people probably never connected the dots, okay? One of the automatic functions we get is we actually get an internal body map. And I'm sure nobody's ever thought internal body map, but right now, if I have that, I know where every part of my body is without looking. I don't have to touch my belly button to know it's there. I don't have to touch my feet. And sometimes I kind of have this map, but this is why somebody might be tapping their foot all the time. You go, oh my gosh, stop tapping. Because I'm not getting the message, where's my foot? And then my nervous system goes, where's my foot? Where's my foot? So then I tap and I'm feeling good. And I go, you're so annoying, Nancy, quit tapping. All right. But it's bigger than that. If I don't know where my body parts are at all times and what they're doing, I don't know where I physically begin and end.
Wow, that's so deep.
But it's actually, watch, it's space invaders. Okay, it's the people in our lives, well, I'll make it simple. It's the ones that get into our bubble. And our nervous system goes, ooh, and they don't understand it. They don't have the boundaries, physical feedback of to know where I begin and where you begin. But think about this also. If I don't even know my own physical boundaries, more times than not, those are the people that don't have boundaries in their relationships. There's a connection there, okay? There's also a connection, probably another word no one's ever heard of. I certainly had not before I learned all this. Gravitational security. Like, do I physiologically feel secure and grounded to the earth? There are so many people that don't. And it can be like I'm walking on a little high rope through life, a high rope. So I'm already more concerned in my life about not falling than connecting with you. But if I don't feel grounded physically, how am I going to be grounded emotionally? See, all these things are kind of transferring.
Yeah. Wow, that's so profound.
Well, here's another one. So if you look at me right now, straight ahead.
Yeah.
And now just think of all the things you can see to the side of you without turning your head.
Yeah.
To the degree that you can, that's your peripheral vision.
Right.
Okay. Some people didn't get that automatic. You didn't go to school to get your peripheral vision. You
can't
take credit. I studied really hard and I have really good peripheral vision. Well, we need it for reading and writing and lots of things for learning. But literally, if you take your hands right now and put them up to the sides of your eyes, like they're blinders, many people who don't have this automatic function literally only see the world right in front of them.
Is that why some people can't find stuff, AKA my husband?
It's so many things. It's also why they can't sometimes sustain eye contact, which makes people annoyed. But literally, my world's right in front of me, which means several things in my relationships. It kind of is all about me. It's just me. I don't see the bigger picture, right? It's about me. And it's also why you probably call me really narrow-minded. I am. My world is a very narrow view. Do you want a few more?
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm like loving this. Cause first of all, one of the things I just want to say, like, make sure you listen to this whole episode, because when I was doing my research on you, it was like, there's all these practices and tools and ways that I've never heard before and that people aren't talking about. So just, if you're like, this is another nervous system person, it's not. So just stay tuned. Okay. Keep going. And that was my commercial for you.
But no, I'm really glad you said that, because I'm really grateful. We've been doing this for over 20 years. So I'm really grateful that people are talking about the nervous system now, but it's always, I want to put that asterisk, but there's a big part to it, because if you do all the things they say to do, which are great, and you don't address the lower brain, you're one of those people that always go, I don't think that really worked for me. Or I kind of feel a little better, but then the next day I'm back to square one. And I'll get to the one where that really gets you if you don't have the lower brain. And by the way, it's not an all or nothing. So you could have some of your lower brain developed. So maybe you have some of these functions and some you don't. There's a whole range. But the whole point is we're supposed to have all these automatic functions. So another one is focus. Okay. So clearly a function that we don't realize, but it comes from the lower brain. As I'm talking to you right now and as you're listening, literally zillions of sensory information is coming into our brain. But one of the jobs of this automatic functions lower brain is it just filters out everything's not important. So if I really think about it, where's my tag on my shirt here? Oh, there it is, right? But it just says not important, not important. Maybe I hear a plane going over, or I just can focus on it. If I don't have this automatic function, it's like everything comes into the brain. There's no filter. So when you say pay attention, the brain would want to yell back, to what? So that's why, and there are so many people that even have tag things now where they rip off their tags. But so I might be talking to you and I really do want to hear, and you're really upset about your day. And all of a sudden I hear some noise over there and I'm like this, I turn and you go, oh my gosh, you're just not even listening to me. But I don't know what to listen to. So that messes us up, right? But the one that really gets us probably more than anything is we take for granted, if we have it, the automatic function to shift gears. So this is when people are
oh my God,
about,
this is a great one. I have a question about this, so I can't wait to hear what you have to say.
Okay, because this one is huge. So we have the ability to shift gears. I can move from one thing to the next and easily transition. I can move from one thought to the next. So let's say I don't have that automatic function. So I'm going to show you how it can really interfere with their life. Let's say we work together and you say something to me that I thought was kind of snarky. And the truth is, as a footnote to that, it probably even wasn't snarky. There probably was at least 10 other people in the room that didn't hear it as anything off, but my nervous system's ability to read the room is going to be completely off if my lower brain is not developed. So that's why that's huge. When people always talk about, oh, your neuroceptions, I don't have it internally, so I'm not going to have it externally. So I now cannot let go that you said that snarky thing to me. So maybe it's later in the afternoon and I'm not even thinking about work. I'm still thinking about how you said that snarky thing. And then I get home and I'm still thinking on it. It's like, how dare you? Now I'm adding some stories to it. So now I call up one of my girlfriends, right? And I vent and she tries to be there for me and hears a whole story. Truth is, I'm going to call her again tomorrow because I can't let it go. And then the third day, she's going to avoid me and she just thinks I'm so high maintenance because she already gave me her time, right? But here's where it gets really, really hard. If I can't let go of something, I'm not going to be able to be someone who can forgive. And this is a biological reason. Okay? Because logically, because remember, we're not talking about the logic part of our brain. Logically, why wouldn't you forgive? It's just we're carrying your energy with me. I'm still in the past, right? But now I can't forgive because I keep coming back to that thought. And I want people to hear that not being able to forgive is a protection mode response. I can't let it go. So now it gets intertwined with the survival part of the brain, because if I let it go, you're going to hurt me again somehow. So I spent so much of my life being in protection mode just for that, based on I can't forgive you. I'm spending so much of my present in the past. And then some people amp this one biological function up to revenge. What's revenge about? Now I'm going into a protection mode where I'm going to be aggressive. I'm going to do something back. And none of that makes me feel better. None. And the reason I tell you this is a lower brain function, not a personality deficit or you don't have a heart, is because, again, we've worked with over 20,000 people at this point. I cannot tell you, Marni, how many people, after they go through developing their lower brain and doing the nervous system stuff, we kind of have a lot of different how we do it, but it's the same idea. To have a flexible nervous system on their own, it's not part of the program. They go back to some estranged family member that they hadn't forgiven for like decades. They never go back and go, let's talk now about that time. They go back in what we call connection mode, and they have the most incredible experience. And that has never gotten old, people telling me that on their own. And that's just like a small little part of all the ways this lower brain. And so what if that is tripping me up in my life? What if I'm so mad at here's the other thing. Once you understand this, so this is doable for anybody right now. I invite people to look at people that annoy you, bother you, you think you've told them whatever it is, and just be curious, what if they're really not wired to do what most people expect?
I mean, I was looking at your quiz on your website, and I was looking at all those different behaviors. And they're just vast. I mean, that list is really comprehensive. And so I started thinking, I was like, these are things that are, and I know you work with kids, like, thank God, because I was thinking like, these are those behaviors that you get labeled, right? Like starting when you're really young, and then you take on that identity, or you do things to overcompensate, right? And And so what I think is just so amazing is that if you are aware of these behaviors, you can self-diagnose somewhat, from that list. And then you can be like, okay, cool. Well, now what do I have to do? Because what I want you to explain is, how does our brain work, or how is it built so that it doesn't matter how old we are or where we are in our life or how many traumas we've had, that we can actually complete the lower brain development?
Yes, I love that question, because what a brilliant plan they gave us, Plan B. So Plan A was, we get it done the first year of life, right?
Right.
When my grandchildren, were born, we all knew this. It was like, get them on the floor. We're getting this done now.
Yeah.
But Plan B, just so you know, our oldest participant, 76 years old.
That's amazing.
76 years, waited 76 years old and loved how her life was, finally understanding. Before I actually say how it works, I want to explain also that if you don't have these functions, you kind of don't really know what I'm talking about until you get them. You know what I'm saying is, I can say gravitational security and feeling grounded until all of a sudden I go, this is what feeling grounded feels like. Oh my gosh, this is so much easier. So your
Because
question,
you adjust, right? Because I know you also talk in your website about like survival mode, right? So this is so pre-conscious, right? That we're just making adaptations. Some work, some don't, right? So that's that survival mode.
well, and not only that, we're compensating. So it's always,
Right.
even if right now you're going, hey, none of this is me, it
Right.
doesn't necessarily mean your lower brain's developed. It might be, and there's such a simple way to find out. But what it does mean is, if it's not, and it's all working well, this moment, my compensations are working, but I'm always vulnerable. And as we get older, we find out, or we have 2 kids, and now we have 3 kids, and now it's a new job. Or we're inconsistent. Sometimes people go, Nancy, you're so spot on. And then the next day you're like so out of it. Well, on the next day, my compensations weren't working as well. But in
Right.
all situations, my brain is working harder than it's supposed to. It's
Poor
working
little
hard.
brain.
And so I'm not efficient. I can maybe do everything, but it's not efficient. So, but basically the brain is brilliant in that it allows you to change. I mean, again, when we first started 20 years ago, over 20 years ago, used to have to convince people the brain could change. That's how much it's all progressed in the last couple of decades. Now we don't have to start with that. People know
Right.
the brain can change. But something I don't still think most people realize, it's always changing anyway. So let's say somebody's listening right now and going, I don't have the time. I'm not interested in changing my brain. You can certainly think that, but guess what? It's changing anyway. But if you don't have some say in how it changes, there's a good chance it's going to change in a way that's called maladaptations, where now what you think is normal, what you think is what you have to do, the brain's familiar with that, and it's changed that way. Actually, even the part of the nervous system that gets really triggered in stress responses,
Yeah.
believe it or not, that will physiologically change and get bigger. And bigger is not better.
No.
So the whole point is, you can go back. You do have to know what you're doing, okay? But you really just need guidance, because you're actually already wired for this. So I want to actually rephrase that. You just need guidance to let your brain go, oh yeah, we're back to, Plan A, only now it's Plan B. It doesn't happen like snapping your fingers, but it's also not something you spend the rest of your life doing. You get the highways.
Yeah.
And you get them for life.
That's amazing.
And like I say, there's not a single person that this doesn't apply to. Every single person was wired to it. So we always go, if you're listening to a podcast, you can't see my hands, but I always put my fingers out like this. But one finger is facing the other finger, but there's a big space in between.
Right.
So it doesn't mean I don't have these in my brain. I just haven't. Now I'm pushing them together. I haven't connected them. And when they get connected, it seems like it's a miracle, but it's not. It's like if you had some wiring in your house and something wasn't working electrically, but your electrician just goes, oh, this is a little, wire that he's over here. And you go, oh, you're not going to go, that's a miracle. You just go, that's what needed to happen. So this is kind of giving you an idea of things that I think isn't still getting out there. And
that's
it's
amazing.
Literally the word we hear all the time, life-changing.
Life-changing. Okay, so I have a couple of questions. One is, when you talk about no date stamp memories, what does that mean? What does that mean? Are those the traumas that you were talking about with the focus?
Okay.
issue?
So I make up lots of terminology because
I
to me
love
it's
that.
easier. It's easier than some of these long words with the nervous system.
Yeah.
So there's two answers to that. First of all, if you do have incomplete lower brain development, it probably does fall under the category of what's been now termed as trauma because it's
Okay.
never ending. All right.
Okay.
It's just never ending. But
Okay.
the way the nervous system works in the part of the no date stamps is it's supposed to work like this. So I go about my day. If I get a little stress, I'm supposed to know how to resolve it. So again, the lower brain people, it's not going to get resolved because I'm not going to get the highway. So this puts them at the top of the list for this, but it can be for anybody, right?
Yeah.
So I'm supposed to, we're always going to go into protection mode, which I call it, because this part of the nervous system is only thinking about our survival.
Right.
That's not the big news flash. The problem is the second part is, and then we're supposed to get back to what we call connection mode, where we get to be us. So
Right.
if that happens, I go to sleep at night and the brain's really doing all kinds of things at night. And it's just consolidating all those memories and they're getting a date stamp. I think of it like when you stamp something like as done, right?
Okay.
And you just file it away into all the other date stamp memories. And it's probably never really going to show up in my life.
Okay.
But now let's say 2 or 3 things happen today, and it can be from my lower brain, it could be from any kind of stress, right? And it never got resolved. So now I go to sleep, and now the nervous system is kind of concerned about that too, because its job is to keep you safe and resolve it.
Right.
So now I'm sleeping, I have no consciousness of this, and now that's not getting consolidated. Instead, I picture it stamped with like a big neon light goes, ongoing danger, ongoing danger, ongoing danger.
Oh, God.
This one isn't resolved. So don't file that way back in the archives. And then how that shows up in our life right now is, so then tomorrow or the next day or next year, something in the present just slightly reminds my nervous, so either might even annoy me a little bit, maybe on a 1 to 10 scale, it's a 1 or something kind of about that.
Okay.
But my nervous system in less than a second is scanning all my history.
Yes.
And then I have to get far to get those, whoa, that's a neon one, right? So now I react like it was a 10 because I bring back every no date stamp memory that kind of.
Oh my God.
Does that make sense?
Well, it totally makes sense. I was actually thinking yesterday. So, I was traveling for a retreat for my clients and I came back and I was working out and my husband was running errands, getting groceries. And I have someone staying at my house and the power went out and I was on the phone trying to do something with an appointment. And all at the same time, the power went out. I couldn't do something on the phone with my client. The person who's in my house is asking me about the internet. My husband's like, what kind of tomatoes do we want? And I was literally thinking about this, Nancy, because I literally was like, everybody stop asking me questions.
Yeah, totally.
And
you hit your threshold.
totally
You hit a threshold at that point.
Yeah, but I thought about it, I reflected and I was like, wow, like that was so, like it felt bigger than the moment. And then my friend was like, oh no, it's okay. Like, that I just wanted to let you know my internet was out. And I was thinking just that. I'm like, what the hell is that about? So you're saying like it's from other times in my life.
That's the best clue. Whenever you think you're overreacting or somebody else goes, oh my gosh, you're so overreacting. When they're saying that, the real truth is, I don't know why they're being indignant because the truth is my nervous system just ran the check and didn't come up with anything. So of course I'm cool. I mean, but this is, again, think of the disconnect. I'm cool. You're so overreactive. Neither are true.
Right.
Neither are true. They're just our biological response. And just knowing, again, I hope we'll have some time I can teach you some actual techniques, but just knowing this already gives ourselves the grace.
Yes.
And then for yourself, you can also ponder, I wonder what it was in my past or something.
Yes.
And it only has to be even slightly like it, right? And I just wonder because it will always call that up over and over and over again until I cannot teach this in a short podcast, but we actually teach our participants how to get a date stamp on those charged memories.
Oh, and then you could file it.
Yeah, then they're filed away. Exactly.
Oh, that's amazing.
So,
I love
so that's
that.
already going to cut down your stress because it's never going to be. Now, we find out, we're humbled, myself at the top of the list, we don't just have 1 or 2 not date statements.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's kind of like, sometimes it's like, seriously, another one. But if we're curious, it makes it almost playful fun. I mean, it's not always fun to go back and get a date stamp, but but that is something you don't ever, it's not like you forget maybe the memory if it's a really big thing, but the charge. And it's that charge that you're bringing up to the present. And how can we be present? So here's another thing that I find probably it frustrates people when a lot of people who mean well, they're saying, you just got to be present, Marni.
Right.
Present. And then you're going to, if you understood your biology, go, seriously? Well, tell my nervous system then to get a date stamp on everything, get my lower brain developed. I mean, the list just goes on. Just be present. Go sit in nature and be present. I'm not putting that down. I'm just saying it's a wider view.
Well, I think also what you're saying is those are those adaptive, right? Those are those compensations, right? Like, like I always say, like, you can do tapping or we can meditate. We can do those things to kind of like regulate, like to get back, right? But what you're talking about is like, hey, newsflash, it doesn't matter how old you are. You just didn't get all the parts. Like it just didn't get factory install incomplete. And so you just need to go back to the factory, right? And that's and I think it's really empowering. And also, like you said, you can give yourself some grace and have some self-understanding and self-compassion. It doesn't mean that you're bad or you're a failure or there's something wrong with you. It's that there's just like you said, for those who are watching on YouTube, you could see what Nancy was doing, right? Like you're just there's a misconnect with the wires.
But the other part of that is that you're always going to be back to square one if you don't include the lower brain development. So like you said, we can both probably rattle off a ton of really cool modalities that might calm us for the moment. But if the core problem really hasn't resolved, like I said, and then it just seems like, no matter what, or that doesn't really work, or it worked for 3 minutes. And so it's, to us, the reason we address both in Brain Highways is that we want to get we call it getting the nervous system's flexibility back. So we're never going to try to say, oh, you're never going into protection mode. That's just not possible.
Right.
If I go into protection mode, I recognize that, I understand, I come back. But like I said, that's not enough. At the same time, repairing the whole biology by the lower brain. You combine restoring the nervous system's flexibility with going back and finishing the lower brain development. And to me, that's the gateway to living life in connection mode.
My God, I love it. Okay, so I'm just fascinated to know, and I'm sure the list is very long, but what are some of the things that we're supposed to do that are supposed to happen? You said, I want to get my grandkids on the floor. What are some of the things that get overlooked for whatever reasons? I'm like,
what gets in the way? What gets in the way?
What are we not doing? I'm thinking of my kids. I'm like, oh God, what did I misinstall?
Right. Because I'm trying to answer this without being cynical, but there's a little bit of cynical thing to it.
Just be cynical. We're just regular chicks here.
Yeah. So, well, forever the brain hasn't changed how it develops. We've just messed with that first year of life. So I'm kind of the dinosaur here. I'm in my late 60s. My mom didn't know about the asymmetrical tonic neck reflex and all this lower brain stuff. You just put kids on the floor in the belly and she folded the towels. Pick me up, put me somewhere else. So the first thing that happened was that we had the whole don't put kids on their bellies anymore. And I understand the fear of sudden infant death syndrome. But nobody meant if you wanted to go ahead and do that for sleep, it didn't mean the rest of your day. So if you look at babies today, they don't spend much time on their bellies. They're in contraptions.
I didn't even know that.
Yes, so watch. They're in contraptions, and they're wonderful. I totally get why people use them. I'm in that little rocker, baby strapped in at 2 months, rocking away, and I can go make dinner. But nothing happens for this ground floor unless I'm on my belly as a baby, on actually even a slick floor. Carpet doesn't work either, because the brain is wired to make certain movements. It can't make those movements if I'm sitting up. It can't make those movements very well on carpet. And if you look around, carpet's fairly new. All these contraptions are fairly new. So we didn't know. We're going, this is great. And then if you look about the time that all these things came on, wow, now so many kids have ADD, so many kids have autism, so many things, because so many of those diagnoses, which you talked about earlier, the behaviors are what get you the diagnosis. It's not like cancer where you can look under the microscope and this cell's different. An uncanny amount of behaviors of the lower brain that are the same as so many of today's behaviors. And you don't have to do either
amazing.
or. We're always big about saying two things can be true at once. You can say, I have a diagnosis, and if there's some upsides to do it, great, but there's a lot of downsides to it. And it also can be that many of these same behaviors were from the lower brain. I'll develop my lower brain, and those will go away.
That's
And
amazing.
So
is it, I'm just, again, this is probably no one else is interested except me, but it's my show, so I'm gonna ask. So is it like when you put a baby on the floor and they like lift their head, they like do the neck thing, or they're
there's
trying
so many
to like,
things that are going on with that.
that's
So
what's
the first
okay.
thing is most kids today have not done what we call creeping, and that's where we start people, is you just start to inch forward. And the wildest thing is, again, over 20,000 people, when we put people back on the floor to begin with, we don't tell them how to creep. And creeping being like the army crawl, kind of.
Yeah. The combat
At
crawl.
first it annoys them because they want to know how to do it. No, then you're using your higher centers of the brain. You're not going to get the automatic functions. You can't tell a 2-month baby, hey, turn your head this way.
Right.
But, so we don't tell them, which is even more exciting, because we do finally tell them at week 5. We show them some videos of all the different stages of it. But every single person at any age goes through the same progression. So if you're starting your, I've seen some really big athletic guys. There was one I'm thinking of as an athletic director of the high school, but he didn't develop his lower brain. He gets on the floor and he's like barely moving, like inching through, because that's where he began. Now, some people start, that's how you can tell how underdeveloped your brain is, also by what your pattern looks like when we first screen you. But, and then when you get up on your hands and knees, then it's supposed to be after you've done enough of that. And along with that is there's some primitive reflex movements. So a really, well, all of them require my hands and everything to move. What do? We swaddle babies. They sleep in sleeping bags now. They never can get their hands to move. So they're gonna not get primitive reflexes integrated. And just think about how that sounds in a relationship, trying to learn. I still have active primitive reflexes. Does it sound really like a good thing? But again, I don't know. And then when we get it on our hands and knees to crawl, again, so many amazing things happen in new kinds of functions. So we get different functions from that. But to give you an example how brilliant this system is, if you got on your hands and knees right now and you measured, and your hands are in front of you to crawl.
Yeah.
And you measure the distance from your hands to your eyes, you will see that's the exact same distance that we hold a book to read. And some of the most important eye functions to make reading and writing easy happen by crawling. But we also made, this is what gets more complicated.
Wow. Mike, literally I would drop the mic if I wasn't holding on to it. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I mean, like I say, there's just, but that's, so.
It's amazing.
So, and then the other thing that sometimes people don't get is you can't go out of order. So somebody sometimes might want to start the program. They go, oh, but I think I have way more of the crawling kind of function stuff. And I go, it may be that those are showing up more because it's compensating so much for the lower, even part of the brain more than that. So part of understanding how this works is we have to go as far back to where we first got off the track of natural brain organization and just give the brain a chance to do what it knows how to do. And like I say, you're not with us very long in our program. We're just your guide. And the other thing that's so cool about this, like you say, no matter what age, no matter who you are in the past, you're the only one that can change this. You get to do it. So a lot of the kids in our program who thought they were stupid and all the other kinds of things, there's like I sit taller, stand taller, is not only do I have all these functions now, but I did this. I changed my brain. And I really believe, because kids who are now adults will write me back over the years of what they've done and stuff and all. We just don't hear that they're drug addicts and all these other kind of things. Why would they be? They now can show up as themselves. They can now connect with other people. And they also have that, I spent all that time connecting my highways. I'm not gonna blow that up with with some drugs, but those are the extra benefits of it. So it's a physical part, and you just need to do it until the highways are in place. And like I say, then you have them for life. So it's not one of those, well, you have to maintain and,
It's just done. So let me ask you this. So that's how you got, I get it. That's how you got involved in working with like kids. So, and then now is this like for those who are listening who like are going to have kids or have grandkids or whatever that is. So is there a movement now or a place where people can sort of try and build this foundation highway like
I
the right way now? Is that like
I
happening
appreciate
at
you
all?
giving me a chance to say that because I don't still think that's out there. You'll get some OTs and PTs who talk about crawling, but even crawling, you could crawl for 5 months, but if you didn't do that first creeping part, you're probably going to crawl in a way that's compensating. And so you're still not going to get the functions. Or sometimes people say, yeah, my kid crawled, but it was this weird crawl. Yeah, it was just to move around. It wasn't to get the functions. So we do laugh. We say that people in our program who then go and have a kid afterwards, that's like the poster child brain highways. Okay, we're gonna have freedom of movement. But it's just, there's a lot of forces out there. And I said I didn't want to be cynical, that don't want you to know. Just think of how big the baby industry is. What I just told you is so powerful, doesn't cost anything. You just need a floor and some knowledge. Okay, it costs maybe a little bit to get the guidance. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But it's not this huge industry of what's the next best product. You know, I would never not put a kid in a car seat. I mean, granted, when I was young, we didn't have that. But now they take them in. The car seats are so clever. You can take them in and they're still sitting in the car seat in the house because they fell asleep. There's just not a lot of financial incentive to spread something. And also think about this too. Okay, now we'll be cynical. So now if we get all those highways in, you're not going to be that person with anxiety. Oh no, look at all the medication and all the money because you're so anxious. I mean, the list goes on. So
oh my God. Yeah, as a society, we're perpetuating the problem. Also, I think like what's really interesting is I interviewed someone who was a millennial coach. So she works with younger people. And she was saying that they have all the terminology, like they know, like, I was triggered or they have the language, right? But they don't know how to do anything about it. Right. And they have, and it's so much more common for us and accepted, which is great to say, like, I have anxiety, right? Or I have ADHD or whatever our label is, which is amazing. And also then, like, as you said, if you reverse engineer it, we have to get to the root of the problem.
That's the problem. It was a great start. It's a great start. I'm so oversensitive. But then it's like, but is that serving me well? Because now what I see the shift more is then all we just need to be is be really compassionate for you, Marni. If you scream and yell in the store and you have a meltdown and you spit at the person in front of you, and there's a whole part of me that totally gets that, but where because my nervous system probably won't be on board. If you just, as a kid, spit at me or it's so loud in the store, I'm like, oh, you can't touch my child now because we have to give him this space and everybody else is in the store. That's expecting a lot of nervous systems to really be on board, right?
Yeah. So my gosh.
It's more like, to me, the compassionate piece is to not only understand what's really going on, but we have what we call in the meanwhile. And in the meanwhile, if I know, let's just say you're a family member and you just are so shut down, resistant. I'm not changing my brain. I'm not doing another one of those. Right. Okay, so I don't have to go, okay, well, you're toast. I now understand your brain profile. And what we also teach people is, without saying to you, I don't make a big deal, oh, Marni, this is what I'm going to do to help you. I'm just going to change how I act and respond around you that make it easier for you to compensate so that we both can stay connected.
Oh my God, I love it. Well, I want to have you back because I mean, I could talk to you for like 5 hours. And I think this is revolutionary. I think everyone needs to know about it. You should definitely, I'm shooting you all, so I apologize, but I really feel strongly that you go to the show notes and you check out brainhighwaysglobal.com and you go to nancysokolgreen.com, which are all in the show notes so that you can check out the book, Connection Mode, How to Change Your Brain for an Easier Life, and go to the website. There's this quiz. She's got, and her little video is so good. So Nancy's a gem. You're an angel. I love what you're doing to make the world a more connected place. And it's so empowering. And I just thank you so much for being here. If there's one thing that you would say to someone who was like, this might be me, or I know someone And what I also want to point out is what the things that Nancy's talking about, they're not like even trauma. Like these aren't even things like ACE, like traumas. These are just like, I didn't get to crawl. So it's very common. So was there one thing that you, like a step or some sort of different way to approach or start to think about this that we could do right now?
Before I answer, I want to say I actually half jokingly, more seriously think not finishing your lower brain should be on the ACE list.
Yeah,
you know
because
it
sounds like
if you track what those people have been through, you know what I'm saying? It's the same idea. And I just throw that out there. I just think the easiest thing is to be curious. So you don't have to double down. You don't have to go, no, that's not me. Oh, I know that's my husband. He should do that or something, just be curious. And we created the website to have so much free so you can go, because like you say, there's not a lot of places you can go to get this information. So you can go on our video section and just watch videos of what the lower brain, and entertaining, because we also think you should have fun while doing it. And also watch somebody who came back from Afghanistan and could not get his life back and what it meant. I mean, so we have all kinds of videos.
Love it.
We have articles where you can go, and what do you mean slouching might be a lower brain thing? What do you mean, why say paying attention is like the worst thing you could say to somebody with lower brain? And then there's fun videos, like I say, but also be curious, is my lower brain fully developed? So while I say we do have a really simple way how we screen in the program, I didn't want to make it that people have to be in the program to know. That screening quiz that you're talking about on our site, that has 100% been reliable. We've never had somebody take that and then come to our program and go, oh no, you're really good. And the reason we did that, because not only does it give you a score, and the higher your score, the more likely it is underdeveloped, but it also gives you places to go see the connection, just like how I did today is like, well, why would that behavior be lower brain? And I don't want to say that every single behavior is the lower brain. I actually want to make sure people hear that. But the possibility is huge. And to overlook it and to keep doing everything else makes you feel like you're just hitting your head against the wall. So just be curious of how is my brain presently developed, and not even probably able to imagine, if it's not working as intended, how much easier this life can be.
I love that's so empowering. And put your babies on the floor. Put my babies when I'm a grandma, I'm calling you, Nancy. I'm gonna find out exactly what to do. Ladies, oh my gosh, so many nuggets and pearls of wisdom here from Nancy. Make sure you go check out her site. And whatever you do be curious and life check yourself. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Hey, thanks for tuning into today's show. So if being in an intimate relationship in which you feel 100% seen, heard, and accepted by a high caliber man is a priority for you right now, and you're interested in seeing if you're a fit for working with me and my team at Dating with Dignity, here's what I want you to do. Just head over to DWD VIP, that's D as in dating, W, D as in dating, VIP.com, and book a call to speak with my team. We'll get on the phone with you for about 60 minutes and you'll get crystal clear on what's stopping you from finding true love right now. We'll also take a look at what you want to create, what you want your whole life to look like when you're able to finally be fully expressed as a woman in a healthy relationship with an incredible guy. And if we can help you get from where you are right now to where you want to be, we will show you the fastest path possible that makes sense for you to do that. We help smart, successful women all over the world solve this one missing piece in their life so they can finally have it all. So to see if we can help you do the same thing, head over to DWDVIP.com. I'm Marni Batista, and let's talk soon.